Imagine waking up one day and realizing that, for the first time in your life, you understand who you truly are. Not just the version of yourself known to your group of friends. Not the identity society gives you because of your job, but the genuine, unfiltered essence of your being. Think about it. How much of your life has been spent trying to fit into roles that were never quite meant for you? How many times have you kept an important part of yourself hidden just to be accepted? What if I told you that the life you seek, the happiness you desire, and genuine freedom all will begin the moment you find yourself? The most powerful revelation of all comes at the end. The journey to discover oneself is not just a philosophical curiosity. It is the foundation of a meaningful life. From ancient wisdom to New Age psychology, some of the greatest minds in history have tried to explain the mystery of the self. Today, we get to the core of what it means to be you. If you've ever felt lost, uncertain, or playing out in a life that does not feel like your own, stay with me until the end. What I'm about to share could alter the way you see yourself and human existence. What does it mean to find yourself? Is it about chasing happiness, becoming successful, or turning a passion into something bigger? Or is it deeper, discovering a truth that requires stripping away layers of defenses, conditioning, and limiting beliefs? Many people go through life without ever asking important questions, following the path of least resistance the world seems to lay before them. But those who push their minds to find something deeper, to uncover secrets, can do more than that. They discover ways to synchronize ordinary life with the true self. It's not an easy path necessarily, but it's the one where fulfillment of purpose begins, where each decision, each step, aligns better with who you are underneath. Carl Jung, the influential Swiss psychologist, wrote extensively about individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are, a distinct person with a unique identity. He claimed that most people live as fragmented, partial representations of themselves, disconnected from deeper aspects of their nature. The version of yourself that you present to the world, the persona, is a mask, carefully crafted over time to gain acceptance and avoid rejection. But beneath the mask lies something much greater. Your true self, long suppressed but ready to be acknowledged and set free if given the chance. Why is it so difficult to find oneself? The answer lies in how we are conditioned from birth. From a young age, we are taught right from wrong, what is acceptable and what must be avoided. We naturally seek approval, learning to follow rules and meet others' expectations. In doing so, we begin to lose sight of our essential being and narrow our potential life path. Think back to when you were much younger, before the world instructed you on who you were supposed to be. What did you love? What were you drawn to? What made you feel alive? What instincts did you have about how you wanted to spend each day? Much of that raw, unmolded version of yourself still exists within you, hidden, but not lost, and remains a real part of who you are today. Carl Rogers, one of the most influential figures in humanistic psychology, believed that people struggle because they live according to external expectations rather than their own values. He argued that true freedom comes when we take full responsibility for defining who we are, instead of letting society dictate it for us. As Rogers famously said, "The curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, then I can change." This idea reveals an important truth. Real transformation doesn't come from forcing ourselves to fit into roles or meet expectations. It begins with embracing who we are at our core, flaws, strengths, and all. Only through that acceptance can we move forward authentically. Now ask yourself, who are you when no one is watching? Imagine being on a desert island with everything you need, free from judgment and expectations. With complete honesty, who would you become in that space? The answers to these questions are the first clues to finding your true self. The process of discovering who you truly are is not about becoming someone new or unrecognizable. It is about uncovering who you have always been. Many spiritual traditions have explored the concept of self-identity. Centuries ago, the ancient Greeks inscribed the words, "Know thyself," at the Temple of Apollo in Delphi, emphasizing that self-knowledge is the beginning of wisdom. In Eastern philosophy, the journey of self-discovery is often described as seeing past illusions, realizing that we are not merely our thoughts, our roles, or our experiences, but something much deeper. The concepts of nirvana in Buddhism and moksha in Hinduism focus on liberation from false identities and illusions, leading to a return to the essence of who you are. Buddhism also teaches anatta, the idea of non-self, which suggests that clinging to a fixed identity is the root of suffering. Similarly, Taoism encourages aligning with the Tao, the natural flow of life, by releasing rigid self-definitions and embracing simplicity and harmony with the world around you. But here is the challenge. Finding yourself takes courage. It calls for questioning everything you've been told, everything you've believed, and everything you've used to define who you are. It means uncovering uncomfortable truths, stepping into the unknown, and sometimes releasing things that no longer resonate with who you are becoming. This is why many people turn away from the process. They hold on to the familiarity of an old identity, even when it quietly keeps them confined. So, where does the journey begin? The first step is awareness. Start by observing yourself, your thoughts, emotions, and reactions. Pay attention to the patterns you've been following. Do they truly belong to you, or were they shaped by someone else? The second step is exploration. Open yourself to new experiences, ask meaningful questions, and let curiosity guide you. Who are you beyond your job, your relationships, and the story of your past? And finally, welcome the discomfort. Growth rarely happens within the boundaries of the familiar. Listen up, friends, because this matters. You need to understand that this journey isn't about discovering a flawless, final version of yourself. It's about embracing change, growth, and the continuous unfolding of who you are meant to become. The self isn't a fixed point you reach. It's a lifelong process of becoming. Consider, too, that the hidden side of your personality is what Carl Jung called the shadow. It holds the unconscious traits and desires we outwardly reject or suppress. Self-discovery isn't about becoming a perfect, two-dimensional character, but about becoming whole and fully integrated. The greatest tragedy isn't failure, mistakes, or even pain. It's moving through life without ever truly understanding who you are. Because the moment you find yourself, that's when life truly begins. But this is just the start. Real transformation unfolds when you put this understanding into practice, when you take meaningful action. In the next section, we'll dive deeper into the steps you can take to shed false identities and step into your most authentic self. The most powerful revelation is still ahead. Are you ready? If you're still with me, it means something within you is beginning to awaken. Maybe you've felt for a long time that there's more to life than what you've been living. Perhaps you've sensed that the version of yourself you've been carrying doesn't fully belong to you. And now, you're ready to take the next step. But here's the truth. Finding yourself isn't a single moment of clarity. It's a journey, a gradual unfolding, an ongoing discovery. The deeper you go, the more you'll realize how much of your life has been shaped by layers that were never truly yours. Today, we're diving even deeper. To truly discover yourself, you first need to break free from the illusions that have held you back. One of the biggest barriers to self-discovery is the fear of rejection. From a young age, we're taught that our value depends on how well we meet the expectations of others. We're praised for being obedient, for following the rules, for keeping others comfortable. But what happens when your true self doesn't fit within those expectations? Carl Rogers discussed the concept of conditional self-worth, the idea that many people feel valuable only when they meet standards imposed by others. This leads to the creation of a false self, a version of you shaped not by your truth, but by the fear of rejection. The longer you live this way, the more distant you become from your authentic self. Now think about it. How much of your personality, your dreams, and even your beliefs genuinely belong to you? How many of your decisions have been based on what you should do, rather than what you truly want? It's a difficult realization, but it's also the first step toward freedom. Because once you recognize the illusion, you can start to break free from it. Now, let's talk about identity. Many people confuse who they are with the roles they occupy. They might say, "I am a teacher," as if that title defines their entire existence. But who are you beyond that role? If everything you've identified with were taken away, what would be left? This question lies at the core of existentialist philosophy. Søren Kierkegaard, often regarded as the father of existentialism, believed that most people exist in a state of despair, not from sadness, but from failing to live authentically. He identified various forms of despair, including the anguish of living behind a false identity, pretending to be someone you are not. Kierkegaard argued that the only escape from this despair is to take full ownership of your life. You must actively choose who you are, rather than simply adopting the identity the world hands you. So, how do you begin uncovering your true identity? One of the most effective tools is self-inquiry. Start by asking yourself meaningful questions. What would I pursue if I weren't afraid of being judged? When do I feel the most alive and connected? What passions or interests have always pulled at me, even in childhood? If I knew I only had a year left to live, how would I choose to spend that time? These questions might seem straightforward, but when explored honestly, they can uncover deep truths about who you really are. That truth is already within you. You just need to quiet the noise that's been drowning it out. But here's the most difficult part. To truly find yourself, you have to be prepared to let go of who you believed you were. This means releasing old identities, outdated beliefs, and even meaningless relationships that no longer reflect your authentic self. For many, this is a terrifying process. An unfulfilling life can still feel safe, simply because it's familiar. The unknown, on the other hand, feels unsettling. But real growth only begins when you're brave enough to step into that uncertainty. This is why countless spiritual traditions highlight the concept of death and rebirth, not as a physical event, but as a profound inner transformation. The version of yourself you once clung to must fade away for your true self to come forward. This theme echoes through myths and stories across cultures. The hero who leaves behind a familiar life, sets out on a journey of self-discovery, and returns forever changed. Now, you find yourself at a crossroads. You can choose to keep living as the version of yourself shaped by others' expectations, or you can step into the unknown and begin uncovering who you truly are. The decision is entirely yours. But what comes after discovering your true self? How do you create a life that reflects your authentic nature? In the next section, we'll dive into practical steps you can take to live with authenticity, make choices that align with your truth, and build a life that genuinely feels like your own. The most profound lesson is yet to come. If you've made it this far, it means something within you is already beginning to shift. Perhaps you've started to question the masks you've worn, the beliefs you've held onto, and the roles you've been playing. But now comes the real challenge. How do you take this understanding and turn it into meaningful change? How do you move from knowing who you are to actually living as that person? Because the truth is, self-discovery means little if it does not lead to action. Many people recognize they are not living as their true selves, yet they remain stuck in the same cycles. They feel trapped by fear, comfort, or external pressure. But if you are truly ready to transform your life, then the next steps will determine your path forward. The first and most transformative step is alignment. Finding yourself isn't just about understanding who you are. It's about shaping your life around that truth. Think of your life as a puzzle. Every decision you make, every relationship you nurture, and every habit you maintain is either a piece that fits or one that does not. If too many pieces are misplaced, the picture of your life will always feel incomplete, distorted, or frustrating. So ask yourself, where in my life am I out of alignment? Are there areas that no longer reflect who I truly am? Maybe it's a job that drains you, a relationship that no longer brings growth, or even a daily routine that keeps you stagnant. Once you recognize the misalignment, you can no longer ignore it. Awareness alone isn't enough. You must also find the courage to act. This is where many people hesitate. Realigning your life often demands tough decisions. It might require walking away from something that once provided comfort. It might mean disappointing others. It might mean stepping into the unknown with no clear roadmap. But here's the paradox. The longer you delay these changes, the more disconnected you will feel. The more you wait, the heavier the weight becomes. Think of the people you admire most, not just those who are successful, but those who embody authenticity, purpose, and inner peace. What do they have in common? They have built lives that align with who they truly are. They have made the difficult choices. They have confronted their fears. And because of that, they wake up every day knowing they are living life on their own terms. But how do you make this shift? How do you move from simply knowing to truly living? One of the most effective strategies is intentional decision-making. Every time you face a choice, ask yourself, does this move me closer to my true self or further away? Am I making this decision out of fear, obligation, or expectation? Or is it rooted in authenticity, purpose, and freedom? If you start making choices from this place, your life will begin to transform in ways you never expected. Of course, this journey won't be without challenges. You will face resistance from within yourself and from the world around you. Your own mind will try to pull you back into familiar patterns, feeding you doubts, fears, and excuses. People in your life may resist your transformation, especially if they benefited from you staying the same. But here's the truth. The ones who genuinely care about you will support your growth. And those who don't? They were never meant to walk this path with you. Viktor Frankl, the renowned psychologist and Holocaust survivor, believed that true fulfillment doesn't come from chasing pleasure or avoiding pain, but from discovering a deeper purpose. Through his experience in concentration camps, he observed that survival wasn't just about physical endurance. It was about having a reason to keep going. Those who found meaning, whether through love, responsibility, or a cause greater than themselves, were the ones who endured. Meaning is what gives us the strength to face hardship and the clarity to live authentically. But here's the most extraordinary part. When you start living authentically, life begins to unfold in ways you never imagined. The right opportunities emerge. The right people find their way into your life. Your decisions become clearer. When you operate from truth, everything else starts falling into place. Now, one final and most profound lesson remains, one that will completely transform the way you see yourself and your place in the world. In the next section, we'll uncover the deepest secret of self-discovery. It won't just help you understand yourself. It will show you how to live with purpose, fulfillment, and peace. If you've come this far, don't turn back now. The most powerful realization is still ahead. You are still here because something inside you is searching for truth. Now we reach a realization that could shift everything. Not just how you see yourself, but how you choose to live from this point on. What if I said that finding yourself isn't really about discovering something new? What if the deeper truth is that you were never lost at all? Think about it. From the moment you came into this world, the core of who you are has always been there. But over time, layers of conditioning, expectations, fears, and beliefs buried that truth. You were never missing, just hidden beneath the roles and stories you were told to live by. But here's what often goes unnoticed. The hidden self doesn't just sit passively in the background. Carl Jung called this the shadow, the unconscious parts of ourselves that influence our behavior without permission. The emotions we suppress, the instincts we deny, the desires we try to erase. They don't disappear. They find other outlets. They seep into our words, shape our reactions, and guide our choices. In fact, research in modern psychology confirms that many of our decisions are made unconsciously before we even become aware of them. The rational mind simply steps in afterward to explain and justify the action. If we ignore the shadow, we lose touch with this hidden driver. We end up living reactively, inconsistently, and with less control over the direction of our lives. Discovering yourself isn't about becoming someone new. It's about reconnecting with the person you were before the world handed you a script to follow. And that means making peace with the shadow, not fighting it. This insight isn't new. Across centuries and cultures, spiritual traditions have spoken of this inner journey. The concept of Atman in Hinduism, the notion of the authentic self in Zen Buddhism, and Socrates' famous teaching to know thyself all reflect the same timeless truth. You don't need to create yourself. You only need to remember who you've always been. So, how do you do that? How do you strip away the layers that don't belong to you and reconnect with the truth that has always been there? It starts with presence. The more you root yourself in the present moment, the more naturally you reconnect with who you are. When you stop living in past regrets or future anxieties, you can simply be. In that stillness, your authentic self has the space to step forward. Eckhart Tolle, one of today's most well-known spiritual teachers, explored this concept in The Power of Now. He observed that many people feel disconnected from themselves because they live trapped in endless mental noise, worrying, replaying old mistakes, or planning compulsively. But who you really are exists beyond that noise. Your true self is found here, in the present moment. So here's your challenge. Can you turn off the distractions and simply be? Can you sit in silence, observe your thoughts, and listen, not to the endless chatter of the world, but to the quieter voice within? That voice has been there all along, waiting to be heard. But this time, don't shy away when you encounter parts of yourself that feel uncomfortable. The shadow contains the emotions you were taught to suppress, but it also holds your untapped potential. When you stop rejecting these hidden parts and start integrating them, you become more grounded, consistent, and true to yourself. And here's the reality that often surprises people. Self-discovery isn't a finish line you cross. It's an ongoing process. Once you see yourself more clearly, the real challenge begins. Living in alignment with that truth, day after day. It requires consistent awareness, courage, and honesty. This is what Nietzsche meant when he spoke of becoming who you are. It's not a sudden breakthrough. It's a practice, a daily decision to show up as your authentic self. Now, the choice is yours. You can dismiss what you've learned and continue following the path others laid out for you. Or you can walk forward with this awareness and build a life that truly feels like your own. Because life doesn't truly begin the day you're born. It begins the moment you stop running from yourself and start owning who you really are. And with that, your journey continues.